Yeah, I love EJ. I love his defense. I think it's a really good scheme. I have to do my part as well, me and my staff of putting really good players on the field and adding really good pieces to the defense. We're excited to have them back. And again, we just got to add pieces, keep developing the players that we do have. Things can turn around. We just have to put the work in. And then we're going to look for playmakers on both sides of the ball. So defensive side, guys that can take the ball away, guys that can affect the quarterback. Our front, we got to get a little stronger there so we're able to stop the run. But, we're just going to look to get better in every avenue.
Panther Nation, what up, though? It's Aaron Duncan here with another video, but this time, this is an extended discussion and breakdown talking about specific needs that we need for this defense to get this thing right and turn it around. You heard Dan Morgan. We need playmakers on both sides. They have to do a better job of putting pieces on defense, and they're looking to get stronger in the trenches. So we're going to look at 2024's issues, look at some of the deeper stats and analytics about what exactly went wrong and how they can be addressed with free agent needs. And then later on in the video, I'm going to give you some film on the specific guys in free agency that's available that they should target to address those needs. So let's go ahead and get comfortable, get you an adult beverage, a little popcorn or something like that. Let's get it rolling. So the Panthers defense was historically bad. We already know that. That's been established. If you're a Panthers fan, it's not news, but it's still the elephant in the room. And this is a big offseason to address that. They decided to bring back defensive coordinator Ejiro Evero. And as you heard in the opening monologue and clip and montage, Dan Morgan clearly fell on the sword. The general manager had to feel pretty comfortable about his job security to completely fall on the sword about not giving the players for Ejiro Evero to have a successful year. Nevertheless, I think Ejiro is clearly on the hot seat, but we still have to get him some players. If that's going to be the excuse, we have to do what we have to do. So first things first, we know it's going to be a big draft class. The Panthers have 9 total picks. It's one of the deeper draft classes in terms of just defensive line, edge rushers, defensive tackles. You know what I'm talking about. So what better time than the present to make things happen? But what comes before the draft is free agency. And so that's what we're going to talk about in this video. We're going to look at the problems with the Panthers defense. Specifically, I'm going to give you a lot of numbers and analytics that show what was wrong with the Panthers, because we know, yeah, they gave up a bunch of yards and a bunch of points, but what specifically was wrong and how they can target that in free agency, what they need to be able to target those problems. And then later on in the video, I'm going to give specific players of those problems and positions to address. Now, I know, of course, sometimes everybody wants all the sexy big names, but everybody's not going to be able to fit the system. And everybody wants to be like, oh, we shouldn't be looking at Ejiro guys. We need to get guys that are just good football players. You have to be realistic, man. Yes, I understand. We don't want to pass on talent for traits, and I know people are just scarred, so when they hear Ejiro guy, it makes them shiver per se, but you still need to get guys that can execute the system and what needs to be done properly. I'm not a big Ejiro Evero fan either, but you don't just get him random guys and then when they don't fit, you square peg round hole and then get mad all over again. No, you still need to get players that can do what is asked of them in this system. So we're going to talk about in this video, but before we get into that, if you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. I'm on my quest for 20,000 subscribers. We're trying to get there, man. So this type of content is going to be the key stuff that we get into before free agency. And I have plenty more videos. I'm going to do the offensive side of the ball later on as well. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that video when it drops. All right. So my biggest issue I had with this defense is just the lack of pressure that they had up front. Yes, the Panthers generated the lowest pressure rate in the NFL. According to Next Gen Stats, they had a 25.5% pass pressure rate on passes. That is not great. Yes, the worst in the league by a nice little piece of chunk of change. The funny part about it is they blitzed at the 9th highest percent rate. So technically, when you think about it, when you blitz, you want to get pressure. You send more guys than the offensive line has to block, hoping that you get somebody free, hoping you catch somebody off guard by sending an extra guy and they get home. The Panthers did that at the 9th highest rate, but it wasn't successful. They only were still able to get 25.5% pressure rate on the season. That is almost embarrassing. So you can't rush 4, you can't blitz And even when you do try to blitz, you're not getting home. Then you're leaving your coverage more vulnerable, because if you're committing more people to rush the passer, there's only 11 people on the field. If you're committing 5 or 6 people to rush the passer, you're leaving only 5, maybe 6 people in coverage. And when you're not getting home and getting pressure, they have to cover for a long time, and that's just a recipe for disaster and a recipe for big plays. And Jadeveon Clowney at his big age was pretty productive, so I'm actually happy with what he was able to bring. But outside of him, I'm not satisfied, and anybody on this defensive front can be upgraded in my eyes, especially on the edge and interior. And when you're talking about the interior, the pass rush numbers are even more ugly. If you look at Shy Tuttle, out of qualifying defensive tackles, there are 115 of them. He ranked 112th in pass rush win rate for defensive tackles. Yes, 112 out of 115 on pass rush win rate. That is unacceptable. You're just not getting any kind of interior pressure. It's hard as an edge rusher to get pressure because the quarterback can just step up. But if you're getting interior, it's hard to escape from that. So you didn't get really any help from Shy Tuttle. Even Ashawn Robinson, who had one of the highest sack totals on this team, wasn't that great in terms of pass rush win rate. Out of those 115, he was middle of the pack at 72nd in pass rush win rate. And so those two guys are your main guys, especially with Derrick Brown being hurt. And that just wasn't great. And Derrick Brown will return, but we know his specialty more so is the run game. He can get after the passer a little bit and be disruptive. He gets double teamed a lot, but you still need to upgrade that interior pass rush. Need somebody. We haven't had somebody inside that can consistently affect the quarterback since KK Short back in 2015, 2016, 2017 when he was at his peak. So I would love to be able to find somebody in free agency that can be a factor on the interior. And then, of course, we got to upgrade these edge rushers somehow, and we need quick winners. We don't need guys that are going to take forever to get there. We need guys that can affect the quarterback quick. So, of course, we play a lot of different coverages and stuff like that plays a little bit far off, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. So you need guys that can get there quick because the ball typically comes out of the hands of the quarterback quick. The next biggest issue with this defense is, of course, this historically bad run defense. This is the worst defense by far in terms of that, giving up 40 more yards per game than the next person in the NFL. Yes, they're the worst run defense by 40 yards. That's crazy. That's actually insane. Just let that sink in. 40 more yards than the next closest person. Unacceptable. 10 150-yard rushing games surrendered. 6 200-yard rushing games surrendered. So just an ugly output overall for the defense. In terms of stuff percentage, according to Next Gen Stats, which means stopping a run game for either no gain or negative, the Panthers had the lowest stuff rate in the NFL. I'll say it one more time. In terms of the rate of stopping an offense at the line of scrimmage or behind it, the Panthers were last. So they're not making yards. They're not making the offense lose yards whatsoever in the run game. The Panthers allowed the second most yards before contact in the NFL. So the running back that has the ball, he is not being contacted by anybody on the defense until about 2 or 3 yards down the field. That's the second highest. So when you're able to do that, that means your O-line, the opponent's O-line, is pushing our D-line off the ball. They're getting blocked like crazy. They're not slipping any blocks, and they're not making contact with these guys until they're halfway down the field. A good yard per carry overall for a running back would be 4 yards. But if he's getting 2.5, 3 yards before even he's getting contacted, most of these running backs are almost 6 feet tall. That's 2 yards right there. If they fall forward, they're getting 5 yards a pop, man. The math just seems nasty. And there was another Next Gen stat that I saw before the Cowboys game saying that the Panthers linebackers lined up an average of 4.7 yards off the line of scrimmage, which is the second highest in the NFL. So the ball is there. They're lining up almost 5 yards off. Now, I know our defense, the philosophy is playing a little bit softer, but this just seems like a ridiculous amount of yards, and I think maybe it's because the offensive line is pushing our D-line into the linebacker's lap, so they're trying to give themselves more room off the line of scrimmage to be able to navigate that trash and potentially just get downhill and hopefully shoot gaps to make plays since they're not getting help from that defensive front. Typically, you want your defensive front to get double teamed, to hold on to blockers, to take up blockers. That way your linebackers can run sideline to sideline free and navigate and make plays. But if your D-line is getting beat one-on-one and the guys are able to immediately climb to the second level to get to your linebackers, it's not a good recipe for success, especially when they're that far off the ball. No wonder you're giving up that many yards before contact. And more specifically, let's dive into it. The Panthers are getting destroyed on first down. They're not winning on first down, and that's keeping them off balance. It's 1st and 10, and according to Next Gen Stats, the Panthers are giving up 6.2 yards per play on first down. So when it's 1st and 10, they're getting 6 yards. They're getting into second and medium to second and short. And when you have that in your playbook as an offensive coordinator, you can call anything because you already have third down in your back pocket. So you can go ahead and run another run play if you want to on second and short, or you could take a shot down the field. When you have that, the Panthers players are off balance. They don't know if they should pin their ears back and go in pass rush. They don't know if they should dig in and stop the run, and they're able to not get a jump. Typically, you want to dictate on your own terms. You want to get them into third and longs and the second and longs and stuff like that. That way, you can figure out, okay, hey, I know a second and long, they're probably going to pass. Let me go ahead and get ready to pass rush. But if they're in that mid-range, you don't really know. But with the Panthers' run defense being so bad, teams aren't doing anything but deciding to run on first down. I'm looking at the rushing percentage, and the Panthers have the 4th highest rushing percentage. So on first down, teams are choosing to run the ball on the Panthers at the 4th highest rate. And I don't blame them, because if you look at what the Panthers give up on first down per rush, they're giving up 5.5 yards per run on first down, man. That's just nasty work. And just on a per game basis, the Panthers are giving up 100 yards on first down per game. Listen to me, 100 yards on first down per game. That's insane to me. So the run defense, in particular early down run defense, has to be fixed. And last but not least, let's talk about that back end of the defense. The soft coverage is an area of concern for me, and I know. This is just a philosophical thing for a Giro system, the Fangio system. They have a philosophy that they want to play far off and give cushions. Their mindset is, hey, when players see everything in front of them, they play a lot faster going forward and going downhill and reacting to that stuff than they are being close up and having to backpedal or turn their head and stuff like that. On paper and in theory, that makes a ton of sense, but there has to be some kind of limitations and there has to be some kind of mix-up. According to Next Gen Stats, the Panthers have aligned in off coverage 75.8% of the time. That is the highest in the league. So they're playing more off coverage than anybody. In terms of how far off their outside cornerbacks, Mike Jackson and JC Horn, are lining up, on average, they're lining up 7.2 yards off of their wide receivers. That is the second highest. So they're playing more off coverage than anybody, and they're lining up the second furthest off of receivers on average. So giving them a bunch of cushion. And again, I know the system is built that way, but to me, I want to be a little bit more aggressive. I talked about dictating the terms. Don't give them anything cheap. I know that they talk about, hey, we rather them nickel and dime us down the field, because the philosophy is that if you make an offense run more plays in a drive, they're bound to mess up. They may get a holding call. They may get a tip or an overthrow on a pass. They may get a negative play because of something else like that. They may false start. They may hold and get behind the sticks. And then now, hey, if it's 2nd and 20 or 1st and 20, now as a defense, you can be a little bit more aggressive because they're just bound to make a mistake the more plays they run. And I get that theory, but at the same time, I'm of the mindset of nothing cheap and nothing deep. Yeah, you don't want to get beat deep because you're playing soft, but I don't want to give up anything cheap either, because you can just give up screens and stuff like that, like we saw against the Cowboys. They just ran 1 million screens to CeeDee Lamb since we were playing so far off, and they kept eating. He probably had about 60 yards off of just screen yards per on his own. So I think Ejiro needs to mix up his coverage some. Yeah, you can still play your philosophy of playing off, but sticking to so much single high and maybe split safety look is just a little bit too much of a cushion for me. And look, I understand that you want to keep that umbrella and that blanket over an offense, but I still think that if you want to be more aggressive and get more takeaways like Dan Morgan talked about, I think that every now and then you're going to have to get up at somebody's grill, man up, and do what you have to do when the time calls for. So there it is. I identified my 3 biggest weaknesses, I think, specifically for the Carolina Panthers. Let me know down below in the comments if you think I missed anything. Let me know down below in the comments what you think is the weakest of the three things. And let me know if any of those numbers or stats that I named surprised you, because some of this stuff is shocking to me. For the Panthers to give up 100 rushing yards per game on first down is literally insane. I didn't believe the stat when I saw it, but this is next gen stats. 100 yards per game on first down. All right, so let's talk about some of the players that could fit into the needs that we have. So let's start up top with the D-line. I got some film on some of these guys. Don't have film on some of these guys that I'll give them their mention, but let's go ahead and start off with the defensive line. Our defensive line needs. First of all, the stat to support this, the Panthers allowed the second highest yards before contact per carry. We talked about that earlier. The defensive line needs some size in the middle to pretty much anchor. I feel like we got blown off the ball and pushed into our linebackers' lap, so they weren't able to make any plays because they weren't clean. They were a big offensive lineman getting into that second level, getting all over them. They weren't clean to make tackles because we got blown off the ball. We also need a nose tackle that can command double teams, whether it's a big body guy like I talked about, a size in the middle to anchor, or it's just somebody that's big enough that can command that type of attention, is smart enough, because sometimes those defensive linemen, they'll hold in a little bit and they'll hold on to those linemen when they get double teamed. That way guys can't climb to the second level. Obviously the return of Derrick Brown, he'll bring some double teams himself, but I think having another guy in the middle that can single up Derrick Brown but also free up the second level linebackers is going to be big. Something we haven't really had in this system. We had Marquand McCall, but we ended up letting him go. Shy Tuttle has been that guy in the middle. He's not the biggest guy, but you don't have to be that big if you're strong enough, but I just don't think he has the lower body strength to be able to hold the fort in the middle. He shows flashes like once in a blue moon. I'm thinking of the Bears game. I'm thinking of some plays in that Broncos game, but outside of that, he seems to consistently get blown off the ball, and he likely will be a cap casualty this offseason. Next up, as far as pass rush, we need a disruptor and a pocket collapser with some power. So of course you want to have some guys that can have a little bit of finesse, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, but I also watched the Super Bowl. There was penetration from the interior, but collapsing the pocket and affecting the quarterback matters the most. We heard in the montage initially Dan Morgan talking about wanting to get playmakers and guys that can affect the quarterback. Of course, you don't have to necessarily get sacks. It definitely helps, but collapsing the pocket gives quarterbacks a false sense of security. When somebody completely just beats their man up front, which is nothing wrong with that, the quarterback may flash. They'll see a flash of the other jersey. These guys are hard to sack. They'll try to avoid it. You see Patrick Mahomes, you see Bryce Young, you see Lamar Jackson, those type of Josh Allen, those type of guys, they just can really avoid when they see that other color flash out of the corner of their eye. They can avoid it. But if their lineman is getting pushed back into them, but they're not getting completely beat, it gives them that false sense of security. And when the pocket closes in on them, it may be too late and you're close enough to corral them. You can either grab them, get a hand on the ball, or you can affect the throw. We saw Patrick Mahomes throw an interception because he was bull rushed. The lineman was bull rushed and knocked into him, forced a bad throw, and they had somebody on the spot, for Johnny on the spot, to come up with those turnovers. So just thinking of ways to disrupt and affect the quarterback to be able to get more opportunities to make plays on the football and be, like I said, a playmaker like Dan Morgan was talking about. Last but not least, interior pass rush to flush quarterbacks. Now, when I say to flush, I like pretty much what we have in Jadeveon Clowney. I also think that at times DJ Wanham showed flashes as well, but sometimes they get a little bit too out of their realm. They may rush past the quarterback, allowing him to step up, or the quarterback escapes up the field. But if you have your interior rush getting through and getting penetration and getting into his face, and he tries to escape out the back door, our edges are rushing wide enough that he should be able to flush them right into those rushers, and they can be there to clean up. So just working in unison as a unit, I guess, up front, whether it's collapsing the pocket altogether with everybody using power, or interior rush to get up the middle, flush those guys outside, and then you flush them to those edge rushers to be able to clean up. So who fits some of these descriptions in free agency? And first, in terms of just interior pass rush, it's going to be Milton Williams. Milton Williams is probably the top interior rusher coming out, because this guy, he's young, he's coming off that rookie contract, had a tremendous contract year, tremendous Super Bowl game. His stock is not going to be any higher. According to Spot Track, his value currently is 3 years, $36 million. I fully expect that to get into the $18 to $20 million range. This is $12 million according to them per year. I think it's going to go higher. Yeah, he may not have the full body of work that others would like to get a long-term deal, but I think you can kind of strike while the iron is hot, being that top guy on the market. Sometimes guys will overpay. This may be one of those years. There is a deep interior lineman class this year, so maybe that diminishes his market a little bit. But at the same time, finding that interior pass rush is very, very rare in the modern NFL. So when you can get a guy like that, I think those skills are coveted. Like, again, this is something that we haven't really had since K'Wan Short was a part of this defense back in the day, once upon a time. So I think Milton Williams would be a home run hit. He came out of Louisiana Tech. We have, I know some of y'all may have some PTSD from Louisiana Tech defensive tackle. Shout out to Vernon Butler. But at the same time, Milton Williams is a pure pass rusher, man. He is the highest true pass set win rate according to PFF, and sixth highest in pass rush win rate via ESPN, just straight up overall, man. Crazy work. You can see him getting after it in these clips, man, from the interior, just one-on-one. Yes, people are going to say, hey, you play with Jalen Carter. Of course, he's going to get double team. He's going to free you up for one-on-one opportunities. I think we have our own elite defensive tackle in Derek Brown, who commands double teams as well, that could allow Milton Williams to get singled up in the interior too. So I think that some of these skills will translate, and the one-on-one opportunities will translate as well. It's not just a fluky thing that he's a system player. I think that him being around another elite guy like Derek Brown will be a good thing. Milton Williams is somebody whose top priority will be the most coveted defensive tackle on the market. So we'll see what happens. Does Dan Morgan drop the hammer and put a big check on him like he did with Robert Hunt and stuff like that? We gonna see. But being familiar with that Fangio system, being able to, like I said, play the run, to play two gap or gap and a half, whatever they want to do there, and just familiar with the principles that Giro runs as well, because similar philosophies. I think that the transition will be seamless. So I will be very, very excited about adding Milton Williams, and I think he can really do some good things for us. Next up is going to be DJ Jones. DJ Jones, a guy that from the Denver Broncos just last year. He's a little bit older. A lot of these guys that I have on this list are not that old. We typically don't go after younger guys on the open older guys, in the open market until later on in free agency when we're desperate. But I think DJ Jones will be a first tier or high second tier free agent just because of what he's able to do. Spot Track has him projected as a 1 year, $11 million deal, and I think it's mainly because of his age. We've seen some older guys get new deals, but 30 is getting longer in the tooth in the NFL. Like I said, especially with a D-line class that's very, very, very deep. We'll see how this market fluctuates, but DJ Jones is that guy that can play in the middle. You see these highlights. He's perfect being able to two gap. This guy will fit seamlessly. When you talk about an Ejiro guy, he played under Ejiro for one, but two, this guy is able to do the things. Look how he attacks the run, controls the blocker, sheds him at the last second, and then gets on. He doesn't bring ton in the pass rush standpoint, but from the run game standpoint, which is what we need, he's able to anchor. You see him not being able to be moved or double teamed there. Like when he gets double teamed, they're not getting him, but he's still able to shed them and physical enough. He's not the tallest, but I think him being short and having that leverage allows him to not be moved. He's able to hold forward. Look at him bend his knees and get low and allow himself to stick in the ground and not be moved. Look, he just knocked Derrick Henry off of his feet, but being able to hold fort and not be pushed around because you have that knee flexibility to sink down when that double team comes, you shed it. Just the ability to play the run, man, and just continue to move down the line of scrimmage, shed at the last second. That's textbook what they teach in the Ejiro Evero system, how to two gap against the run, man. It's very, very beautiful to see DJ Jones play. So having a front with DJ Jones, Derek Brown, and Deshaun Robinson on first and second down, early downs where we're playing would be beautiful. Then you can draft your nose of the future if you sign DJ Jones to a 1-year deal, and then you can have him rotate as a pass rusher at the nose mark, and then have him learn and be mentored by there. That way it's not a ton of pressure, but you're still reaping the benefits of this deep defensive tackle class. DJ Jones was 9th in the league in total run stops, and he had the second highest run stop win rate. Like I said, he's not the oldest. I mean, he's not the youngest, and he's not the biggest, but he can definitely anchor. And like I said, he's an Ajiro guy. I'm telling you guys, just because Ajiro guys makes you guys shiver doesn't mean it's a bad thing. There are good Ajiro guys out there. It's just the system we run is not being executed to the highest level, and it's probably not being coached to the highest level as well. But this is a guy who has that experience, can do all the things that are needed and required, and I would love to have DJ Jones. I think that if they miss out on Milton Williams, they should immediately go after DJ Jones, give him a 1-year deal. If you want to give him a 2nd-year deal on the back end just to make it a little bit more incentivized, but I would do that because I just think that as against the run, even if he only provides early down upside, this is what we need to stop the run. It is bad. It is bad. DJ Jones, he's from South Carolina. Shout out to Wren High School. He went to Wren High School, which is I think it's Pickens County. Is it Pickens County or Greenville County? I don't know. They've been switching that zoning over there. It's close to my former neck of the woods. I didn't even know that till I did some homework on DJ Jones. So maybe you got the hometown favorite. And I know some people don't like us just going after people that's from the Carolinas, but if it's a good selling point, we ain't got too much we can sell coming back to Carolina. So you might as well sell that hometown cut. And I would love a guy like DJ Jones to come home on the backside of his career. Not really backside. He's only 30 years old, but a guy that may want to come back to the Carolinas and do his thing. Believe it or not, guys, it is a selling point, and he can be that guy in the middle for us. Some other honorable mentions that I don't have tape on is going to be Roy Lopez. He can play that nose on early downs as well. He's from formerly of the Arizona Cardinals. I like the traits and the size that he has. He's not really heavy in terms of pounds, but he just looks huge on tape. He can anchor as well, hold the fort, can command double teams, and really not get pushed off the spot. That's really what we're looking for. Even if you're making plays like DJ Jones does is a bonus. But if we just have a guy that can not get blown off the ball, take up double teams, and free up so there's less blockers for everywhere else, that's what we need. We need difference makers that can command attention from the opposition. Another guy is Teair Tart from the Los Angeles Chargers. Not the tallest guy in the world, but he's heavy. Also can anchor, play that middle of the defense as well. Has the strength to command some double teams. Can make plays in that essence as well. So 4 different names. Obviously, Milton Williams is a dream. DJ Jones is a more realistic option, and then a guy like Roy Lopez or Tart are fallback plans who I think we could go after. But I would love to be able to get a guy like Milton Williams. He doesn't play the middle, but he fills that role of what I'm talking about, having somebody that's can flush quarterbacks in the interior, and he can also play with a little bit of power if you want him to get after the quarterback. So I think that the D-line, there's some targets that we need to zero in on, and we'll see what Dan Morgan does there. Next up, Panthers edge rusher needs. So the stats here is the Panthers have the 5th lowest time to pressure in the NFL. So it takes, they pretty much time how long it takes a defense to get a pressure. And in terms of what they keep in terms of time, the Panthers have the 5th slowest time in the NFL. So it takes a while to get there when we actually do get there. And so they rarely get there because I think they were one of the lower pressure rates in the league. But when they do get pressure, it still takes them a while. All a recipe to say that we need guys that can get after it. Another stat, 60% of the rushing yards the Panthers surrendered came outside the tackles. What? Wow. Now, all of it wasn't, because then again, you look at the numbers, Jadeveon Clowney was one of the higher guys in run stop win rate. So what does that mean? That means whoever was opposite of him, whether it was DJ Johnson, whether it was DJ Wanham, or whomever, they were getting destroyed. And yeah, he might have had a good win rate, but sometimes he was a lot giving up the edge as well in terms of Jadeveon Clowney. So sometimes he'll dive and cheat in sometimes and he'll get washed down, and then the run will go outside of him. So we need guys that can set the edge and be strong. So I have it here to mitigate the 5th slowest time to pressure. I'm looking at quick winners, guys who can have a good get off. They can get pressure on the quarterback instantly. That way they can be disruptive early on. Next, agility for twists and stunts. we do a lot of traditional, just straight up rushes. I would love to see Ejiro Evero try to mix it up with some twists and stunts. You can be a little bit more creative up front than just coming, hey, go after and win your individual battle. When you give a guys loops and twists, that gives them, the guys that don't have that pass rush bag, it gives them the opportunity to get on the move. It confuses offensive linemen. Sometimes guys can get sprung free. Just manufacturing pressure instead of putting pressure on them to just win straight up one-on-one, because we don't have too many one-on-one winners now. We do need to change that, but I think being able to add guys that have the agility to do twists and stunts would be huge. Now next, I want to see power to collapse the pocket. Again, just going back what I said with the defensive tackles. Collapsing the pocket like we saw in the Super Bowl. Some guys, when they feel a guy getting beat, they can dodge them easy in the backfield. But if you slowly squeeze that pocket on the quarterback, that false sense of security, but they feel you. It's a false sense of security, but they feel the pocket collapsing. You just make your presence felt by being able to have that power, and power can set up a lot of different moves for defensive linemen in the game. So I just think strength to power and speed to power is a requirement that I think that edge rushers should need, and especially in this system where you're playing the run first a lot of the times. So being able to counter that into power is going to be big in a system like this. And last but not least, strength and length to set the edge. Strength to hold the edge, but length to be able to strike, lock your arms out, and make sure you hold the fort. That way you don't get washed inside or get pushed off. When you lock them out, you can control that block and then shed them whenever you're ready to free yourself up. So I think strength and length to set the edge is big. And I think it's going to be something we need in order to, like I said, mitigate these 60 yards rushing, 60% of the rushing yards that came outside of the tackle. So let's go ahead into the guys that we have here. So that brings us to Josh Sweat. You're going to see these clips with him and Milton Williams, but we're talking about a quick winner. Josh Sweat exactly is that. As low as we were, you want to talk about the opposite. Josh Sweat had the 6th fastest average time to sack. Yes. So in terms of how long it took him to get to the quarterback and get him to the ground, the 6th fastest rate in the league. So he's getting home very, very fast when he does get home. And that's exactly what the doctor ordered in terms of what I said was an issue for this unit. But he's coming off an amazing Super Bowl run, and just the game he had, I think he may be a little bit overpriced for what he is. Yes, he played in a system with a lot of disruptors, so he didn't get as much attention as some of the other guys. But I also think that he's a good guy that the Panthers need. Sometimes you got to get that juice off the edge that you have been missing, and I think he may be, like I said, a little bit overrated in terms of where he is. Not saying that he's a bad player, but I just think that his stock has climbed so high, and the fact that he'll be the best edge rusher on the market. Put it in your mind like T. Higgins. T. Higgins is that fringe wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2, but the fact that he's going to be the most, I guess, the best available potentially wide receiver that would have been on the market, he was going to get $30 million just because that is the going rate. And it's unfortunate that it comes to that, but the market is the market. We've seen this happen plenty of times with quarterbacks where whenever it's your time to get paid and you're the best guy out there, you're going to re-up and get that bag. But Josh Sweat, you can see him getting after it in these clips, just showing the speed against some good and showing the power to get home against some good quarterbacks. I think he could be a good fit for the Carolina Panthers. Spot Track Value has him at 3-year, $56 million, which is what? 126, 27, so close to $18 million per year. Anything under 20, I think, is very, very, very decent. But I think his market value will be a little bit higher than this because of, like I said, where he is, how he is in the market in terms of that being one of the best guys on that free agent market, and just the key in the premium put on a pass rush position. But I think Josh Sweat may be something you just got to pay the piper on in terms of the Panthers to get that pass rush, because you need it badly. I talked about how bad it was in those stats. It's just something that they have to get fixed. You're putting a lot of pressure on your secondary when you blitz, because you have to blitz, because you have to get pressure, but the blitz isn't getting home either. So Josh Sweat takes you a step closer to being able to rush for and get home. So I think his skills could definitely be used very, 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 very thankfully in Carolina. Another under the radar edge rusher who is potentially, I guess, an Najiro guy. He played in LA at some point, and similar skill set needed for this system because similar odd front Fangio disciples are over there in the Rams as well. And that's going to be Michael Hoyt. Michael Hoyt's spot trap value is $4.8 million, and you can just watch this reel of him getting at it. This guy is very, very heavy, 290-something pounds, but he can line up inside, he can line up outside, standing up. He's versatile, he's high motor, he gets after it. You can see his get off. He has moves. He has the what's it called? The arm over and stuff like that, the hand swipes. You can see he really just gets after it, knocking the ball in the air. This guy is a ball player, and his value is only $4.8 million. This is a guy that I think you can add to the rotation that gives you inside pass rush ability, outside pass rush ability, just versatility that we give a lot of offensive stuff to think about. He's not expensive, and if you miss out on some of the big fish like Josh Sweat, this is a guy that you can put into the rotation. Go ahead, get you a couple rookies that can get after the passer, and he'll be able to fill a role for you nicely. You'll be able to get a lot out of him. He played great in LA for them. He hit the market this year finally because he got tendered last year. So we'll see what happens. I'm sure he wants to return, but at the same time, when you put out tape like he has been putting out, this guy I think is going to have a little bit more of the underrated free agents out there because this guy just plays hard every snap from wherever he is, gets after it. I just love Michael Hoyt's game. I wasn't really familiar with this game, but I watched the guys from Cover One with the Buffalo Bills talk about him. I just looked at some of his tape, man. It's just, this guy is just a problem wherever he is. Just a disruptor, wreaks havoc, the bull rush, the power, the speed. This guy has everything you want to from a guy that can play inside and out, man. I'm a sucker for that inside out versatility. And so Michael Hoyt is a guy that will be very, very excited to add to this team. But you can just see him getting after it over the years, violent as soon as he arrives to the quarterback, man. Just a good player overall. An honorable mention edge rusher, I think, is Chase Young. Chase Young was a guy that we targeted last year on the backstretch when we were looking at Jadeveon Clowney. I don't know if the medicals and the market value that he wanted lined up, but he had 5.5 sacks this year, similar production to what Jadeveon Clowney did. The Saints weren't that good, but I thought Chase Young played all 17 games, was healthy. His health was a big question. The neck injury seemed to not be as much of a problem as it had thought to be initially, so he'll be on the market again. I think he'll be a lot more expensive. His spot trap value is almost $17 million. I don't see that happening. Maybe he gets 15 with some prove-it money on there with some incentives. But I think this is a guy, he's still only 26 years old. Former number 2 overall pick. Remember, he just came off his rookie contract, had to get a prove-it deal because of health. He played 17 games. Like I say, only had 5.5 sacks, but he has 8 tackles for loss. Was very, very active. And I said, even with the Saints being as bad as they were, he had a pretty solid year. So this is a guy that, like I said, being at his age is hard to ignore. He's not some old guy, even though it seems like he's been around for forever in the fact that he's been hurt. But Chase Young is a guy that you have to think about. So let's move on to the safety position. And of course, the Panthers safety needs, they obviously only have one on the roster currently, and that's Damani Richardson. I love Damani Richardson's game, but this is a chance for them to reset the whole room overall. I'm comfortable letting Damani come in and compete because he fits a lot of the traits that I'm saying on here. He has intelligence and instincts. I like when he does that. His tackling is some of the phenomenal stuff on the team. I think he can be a ball hawk. We've seen him in training camp and have a pick during the regular season as well, and just range over the top. We've seen him play over the top as well, but I think he plays a little bit better closer to the line of scrimmage. Let's look at the stats. Jordan Fuller gave up a perfect passer rating when targeted last year, 158.3. Yes, Jordan Fuller gave up a perfect passer rating. Perfect when targeted. And he only played in 9 games, mind you, 9 games. Crazy. But another stat, our safeties accounted for the 3rd most touchdowns surrendered in the NFL as a unit. Yes, the 3rd most. Jordan Fuller himself gave up 5 touchdowns. Nasty work. Nasty work from him on his way to that perfect passer rating. Whenever I'm having nightmares of him guarding CeeDee Lamb in the red zone one-on-one, and that's what our system encourages. So you need guys that can They can be able to make plays. And I also have in fine print, they need a nickel with similar traits like that, but also with man coverage ability. Yes, I know we have Shaw Smith-Wade. I think there's a lot of things about the nickel position that he may struggle with. I like him better outside, even though he doesn't have the length that we always like. But I think what he was able to do in college, playing on the outside, playing in off coverage, a lot more aggressive and make plays on the ball. I think he deserves a shot more so there than on the inside, because there's just something about playing the nickel in this defense, man. You got to be able to move laterally. It's just it's a learning curve, and he'll be able to probably compete this year. But I still think they need a nickel that's bigger, that's better in run support. I put tackling on here as well, intelligence and stuff like that. I just think they need a nickel, because a lot of times we're in nickel. 56.5% of the time the Panthers are in nickel. So your nickel is going to be out there, and they're going to run the ball. So you need a guy that has enough size to be able to play the run. You saw the Eagles with Cooper DeJean. Cooper DeJean's like 200 pounds. You know what I'm saying? 6 feet, 200 pounds. But Shaw Smith-Wade is what, 5'10", 185, 190. There's a difference. We had Troy Hill, who's on the team. He ended up getting exposed, having to play the run a lot more as well, because we were getting caught in nickel and people were running the ball on us. He was getting bullied around against the Falcons, and that was his last game as a Panther, because he probably did not sign up to have to play the run on a consistent basis, especially with a defense that's that bad. But let's look at the only film I pretty much have for the safety group, and this is the big fish that I'm really locked in on anyway. Trayvon Moehrig. Trayvon Moehrig of the I'm gonna say Oakland, the Vegas Raiders. Man, do I love this guy. He typically had played early in his career as that deep safety, which is what we saw from him at TCU coming out anyway. But as their coaching staff, of course, has changed, and just the systems, he's been allowed to play closer to the line of scrimmage now, and he's played way more productive. He's been able to make plays because he's blitzing now. He's getting to make plays on the ball. He had 12 pressures this year. Also had 10 pass breakups. Nobody in the NFL has double-digit pass breakups and pressures. So this is just rare air because he plays so close to the line of scrimmage. This is a guy that can help that pass rush. You can see him here on these highlights getting after the quarterback. You can see him being physical and beating outside and being smart, playing with those instincts like I talked about. That's instincts. When you see these plays and you see that you're being a football player, you're not just being blind. You see him running up here, watch him bounce, making tackles like that. Everything that you want to see from a guy that I'm talking about in terms of tackling, being able to be a smart football player, and just being responsive. You can see here in space, he sits here. I'll go back just a little bit. You can see here, he's on the top left right here, and he has no assignment. He's guarding grass. You see he's by that 30-yard line. He's guarding grass. But the fact that Baker scrambles up, he becomes a football player, uses instincts, and goes and get him. Doesn't just sit there and guard grass with nobody around. He goes and gets him. That's what I'm talking about with instinct and just being able to make a play, because there's no reason for you to sit there and guard green grass when there's no receivers or weapons coming your way. You see the quarterback scrambling at you, go get him. Because if he just sat there, Baker Mayfield could have gotten north to south. But the fact that he had to wiggle around, it forced him to make a play. And so you can just see him filling in gaps in the running game, doing what he needs to do, being able to be smart here. Look, he jumps on the crosser, but turns his back. Mahomes tries to go out there, but he breaks it up. Look at the recovery speed, being able to be a ball hawk, being able to go on and play the ball here. This guy is a ball player. Trayvon Moehrig is my number one target. He has a 3-year, $47 million valuation, according to Spot Track. I think at least for a starting point and an anchor point, we have to be able to get a guy like that. Safety is too crucial for this system. I think he'll be worth the money for us, and sometimes you got to pay the piper again. But I think safety is so crucial for this unit. I don't think we can draft a bunch of rookies and scrubs. We need to hit one big anchor, big dog in the back end. Let's start with Moehrig. Some honorable mentions, of course. People are talking about Javon Holland. Javon Holland has had an up and down career. This past season, he didn't play that great. But early on in his career, he was a ball hawk. He was physical. I think he's still physical. He'll be on the market. The Dolphins said they're going to let him hit the market and test it and have whatever he wants to do. Why not scoop up another former Dolphins player and let Robert Hunt recruit him? I think he would bring some attitude to the secondary as well. I think that he could be solid, but I still prefer Moehrig over him because I just love the versatility that Moehrig brings. And I just think that their attitude, the instincts, the smarts are just something that we've been missing over the past few years. The market value for Javon Holland is 4 years, $60 million. So you're looking at about $15 million per year. I personally would put that money towards Mo Rig, but that's just me. I think that the Raiders do want to bring Mo Rig back, so you have to worry about that. But I still think if he hits that market, go get that man. Go get that man. Another safety is Cameron Bynum. Cameron Bynum is a versatile guy. He has a background of playing cornerback in college, so he can play in the nickel if you need to. Talked about playmakers. This guy has 19 pass breakups over the last 2 seasons. He had 3 interceptions this past season. He's just not a celebration guy. You see, he went viral for these celebrations in the end zone. The reason why he celebrates is because he's making plays. Him and his teammates are making plays. He's not just dancing for no reason. He's dancing because he's been making plays. I think this guy could be a target for us. That's a low-key good acquisition. Another last-minute guy is Andre Cisco from the Jaguars. He played a ton of single high safety. He can move around. We know we play a lot of cover 3. He has 8 career interceptions, even though he only had 1 this past year. So he has some production getting picks in his career. He also has 6 pass breakups. So anybody that's able to get their hands on the football, they're going to pique my interest because Dan Morgan talked about getting playmakers, and that's a playmaker. He's only 24 years old. His market value is 1 year, $10 million. Somewhat, I guess, of a proven deal, but he former 3rd round pick. This guy's still young. I think that the ball production is something that piques my interest. So whenever you make plays on the ball, you're going to get my attention. And I think Andre Cisco could be a guy that we could look to. Last but not least, linebacker. Linebacker is something that I'm not really sure how they're going to proceed because they just drafted Trevor Wallace. Shaq Thompson is still kind of floating out there if they want to bring him back on a vet min deal. And of course, Josie Jewell is under contract for 1 more year. So how they proceed with this unit, I'm very, very curious because like I said, I just don't know how they feel about Trevor Wallace. Up and down rookie year, got hurt to end it. I think they need a guy that's off the ball that can blitz. I think they need a high effort athlete, a blitzer who has agility to change direction. So when they get rerouted and somebody meets them in the hole, they can juke them and change direction and still get past, and also closing speed to finish. So once they get a gap that's open for them to blitz through, they have the speed to get there in time. Time and time again, I saw that our linebackers were blitzing and the ball was just gone before they even got there because it took a little bit too long just to get there. Not explosive enough at coming downhill. Look at the stats. Josie Jewell and Trevor Wallace had pass rush grades, both of them below 60 according to PFF. So not very great in terms of what they do in a pass rush standpoint. Josie Jewell did have 3 sacks and Trevor Wallace had 1. But if you're not consistently getting pressure and affecting the quarterback, I talked about the lack of success of our blitz rate. The Panthers had the lowest blitz success rate in the NFL in the last 4 years. Nobody's had a lower success rate blitzing than us this year over the last 4 years. So just nasty, nasty work. You're not getting, like I said, your front 4 can't get there, so you have to blitz. Your blitz is not good enough, and so you're leaving the secondary out to dry. I think they need a linebacker that can do these things. And the one guy I saw out there, he's a big fish, and I'm not sure if he's going to hit the market. And that's Ernest Jones. Ernest Jones' spot track value is 4 year, $52 million. He played for the Titans initially, ended up getting traded to the Seahawks and completely changed their defense, man. This guy led all linebackers in total pressures and was second in pass rush win percentage. When I talk about a guy off the ball that can get after it, you saw these first couple clips of him getting after the quarterback. He does that. He's that off-ball guy, but he also plays the run very well. He's an attitude guy. He's very, very violent when he gets home. He's very, very violent when he makes tackles in general. This guy can play some football. I really, really like his game, man, and he's going to be the big fish. 4 year, $52 million. I'm not sure they want to invest this type of money in the linebacker position. I think they much rather go cheap because of the amount of money they need to allocate to the D-line and the secondary. But again, when you're talking about a guy that fits those traits that I mentioned, this guy checks all those boxes and some more. Just look at these highlights. This dude is a monster. Playing number 13 out there, getting after it. He's a great tackler in open field. He's physical. This guy is a guy. He was traded to the Seahawks. In his first game, he had 15 tackles. So just an instant impact for my guy, and you love that presence. We haven't had dominant linebackers since that Luke Kuechly and Thomas Davis. I love Shaq Thompson, and he's been holding it down, but he hasn't really had a running mate. And so him in the twilight of his career, his future is up in the air with us anyway. I think we need to get back to having those dominant linebackers, and this guy is the one to anchor. He will be the long-term answer, in my opinion, at linebacker. And I just think that coming off his rookie deal, he's still young, he's still hungry. Rewarding him with a contract would be phenomenal. This guy's only 25 years old still, so a lot of good football left ahead of him. Ernest Jones is a big fish linebacker that I think does everything we need. And so we'll see how much they want to put towards linebacker, but Ernest Jones is one of the ones if they decide to do it. I really have no other honorable mention linebackers because there's not too many that fit the bill to be able to rush the passer. If they want to find those, they have to go to the draft. And look for that. They tried to do it in the draft last year. They ended up trading because they got that opportunity to get that second round pick from the Rams. They passed on Edgerrin Cooper, so they missed out on that. They tried to go after Patrick Queen in free agency. He missed on him. They weren't able to pay up for him, so they passed on that too. They missed out. So they're going to clearly need a pass rushing linebacker because a 30% pressure rate on blitzing is crazy. It's crazy. And I just gave you all the numbers in this video, man. It's very, very nasty. There's been a lot of information in this video. So you guys let me know down below in the comments of the free agents we talked about. Who are your top 3 targets that you would love to add to this team that I mentioned and we discussed? If there's somebody that I missed, let me know as well down below in the comments. Of course, I tried to give some high price dream scenarios, but also some realistic guys that can really come in and help us because we have to turn this defense around. And I think spending money is the quickest way to get tangible improvement on a unit that was historically bad. Ernest Jones, man, former South Carolina product, man. If they want to do it, I'm just saying. So it is what it is. But I appreciate you guys watching to the end. If you did, I love you guys. We'll stay tuned. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel for the offensive breakdown that we do like this. This is a fun one for me. A lot of work, but it was a fun one. So if you want to make sure you show some love, give the video a thumbs up. It really helps me out. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.